Hi, welcome to the Frugal Frau. I'm Sukey, your host, and today's project is to make dividers for a box. But before we get started, please like, subscribe, and comment. It helps our channel out and we really appreciate it. So let's get started. In this project, we have chosen to divide the box into 6 sections using one long divider and 2 width dividers. Mark the length and the 2 widths by scribing. Place the cut edge on the inside faces of the box and then scribe. This is much more accurate than measuring. Tom used a straight edge once he made the scribe mark on this long piece, and he will repeat this process on the 2 shorter pieces which go across the length to divide the box widthwise. Accentuate the scribe line by cutting diagonally into it, and that provides a nice little groove to help the saw follow straight along the line. Here, Tom is just repeating the entire process with the 2 shorter pieces. Saw the length and width dividers to length along your scribed lines. Tom's just using his homemade crosscut saw to do this. Plane the sawed edges to smooth and square them. Make sure they are square with the faces of the board. And you can just check this with a small square. And here he's just checking that it's square with the edge. Test each piece to make sure that they fit into the box snugly. This one's a little too snug, so he's going to have to plane a little bit off. Minor adjustments are often necessary when making dividers like this. This piece he's probably marked with a letter A, and then he'll mark the other short piece with a letter B, and they will correspond to their positions in the box. And those positions will be notated on the top edge of the box because there may be some slight variation in size between the 2 pieces. And that is because the interior of the box may be slightly different. It is the nature of wood. After a few adjustments, he does a final test, and this time it fits. Test the other short piece to make sure that it also fits. Test the lengthwise piece also. Next, determine where the 2 width dividers will cross the lengthwise divider and mark that. Make a scribe on the marks that you measured for the crossing of the width and length dividers. For ease of marking, Tom just marks the entire width. Next, find the lengthwise center of the long board and mark that position. To do this, Tom has measured the approximate center from both edges of the board, and then the line between those 2 approximate centers should be the exact center. And he just repeats that process on the 2 shorter pieces. I made this graphic to depict the actual alignments so you could see that more clearly. Mark the length and width of the cutouts needed to assemble the dividers. The length is the distance to the center of the divider width. The width of the cutout is based on the board thickness, which in our case is a 3/8 inch thick board. The length of this long divider was just over 12 inches. Rather than making the position of the cuts complicated, we simply marked 4 inches from each end of this divider, then measured another 3/8 inch inwards from each of those 4-inch lines to mark the position of the cutouts. For the shorter dividers, the width of the cut was made by measuring 3/16 of an inch to either side of the center line. Remember, you're only cutting halfway through the width for all of these cuts because these boards are going to lock together. All of the scribe marks are deepened with a knife and then cut diagonally into that knife from the center of where it's all going to get cut out anyways. And that just helps the saw to follow and keep it straight on the lines. Don't forget to mark the leading edge of the cut on the edge of the boards. You're making 2 cuts into each of these dividers. Saw the 2 cuts for each connecting slot on each of the dividers. Use a crosscut saw to make these cuts. And carefully go to the center, but do not go beyond the center. Because the board is a thin board, Tom is having to steady it with his non-saw hand, as it's going to flex quite a bit and you do not want it to snap off. So therefore, do not saw this with an aggressive motion. Be gentle. After all the cuts have been made, the slots can be just knocked out with a narrow chisel such as the one Tom is using here. Smooth out the base of each slot cut with a marking knife or other similar tool, and repeat that on each of the divider sections. Test fit all of the divider sections together. Press firmly and make sure that all the top and bottom edges line up so that the dividers will sit flat and flush with the bottom of the box and also be even at the top. This one was a little tight, so Tom's just going to pare off a little bit gently with a chisel and retest it. And here it needs a little bit more taken off, and he's taking very little off. You must be careful when you do this. Now test fit the entire divider unit into the box to make sure it fits snugly. Make any adjustments if necessary, and then you can glue it in place. Tom applies glue on all the bottom edges and all of the side edges. And then he just places it in place. No clamping, of course, is necessary because the box serves as its own clamp. Check that all the dividers are square to each other and square to the faces of the inside of the box, and press them into place to make any minor adjustments if necessary. Firmly seat the entire divider unit into place using the tool of your choice. Wipe off the excess glue and let the whole unit dry. There, a nice set of dividers in this box.